The alien moon was quiet that night, except for the sound of water rushing through the dark forest. Ethan walked along the muddy path, his boots sinking into the soft ground with every step. His visor displayed the river ahead, a long black line twisting through the glowing jungle. Locals called it the River of Shadows, saying it swallowed anyone who fell in. Most humans laughed at such stories, but Ethan didn't. He had been on enough alien worlds to know that legends were usually born from truth. Mist curled above they. Water lit faintly by the pale moonlight. The air smelled of wet earth and strange flowers, their petals glowing in faint blue. It was peaceful, almost too peaceful. Ethan was mapping the area for his research mission, marking safe zones and noting dangerous spots for future expeditions. But then he heard it, a sound so faint it almost blended with the river's whisper. A scream. It was not a human scream, but high-pitched and trembling, like a frightened child. Ethan froze, his hand going to the small plasma cutter on his belt. The scream came again, followed by splashing. He turned toward the sound and ran, his boots kicking up mud. Branches scratched his arms as he pushed through the thick jungle growth. The noise grew louder. Someone was struggling in the water. When he reached the bank, he saw her, a tiny figure flailing in the black current. She had pale, glowing skin and long silver hair that floated around her like strands of light. Her eyes were wide with panic, catching the moonlight like shards of glass. The current was pulling her toward the center where the water turned into a swirling pit. Ethan's breath caught. The River of Shadows was dangerous not just because of its pull. There were creatures in it. He saw a ripple in the water, long and dark, moving toward her. "Hold on," he shouted, even though he knew she couldn't understand him. Without another thought, Ethan threw off his pack and jumped in. The icy water hit him like a wall, stealing his breath. The current tried to drag him under, but he kicked hard, forcing himself toward her. She was smaller than he expected, barely reaching his chest in height when he grabbed her. She clung to him with surprising strength, her fingers digging into his suit. Something moved beneath them. Fast, too fast. A shadow passed under his legs and he felt a tug, like something brushing against his boots. "Not today," he muttered, holding her close. With one arm he swam toward the shore, using the other to keep her head above water. The current fought him, waves splashing against his face. He pushed harder, his lungs burning. Finally, his feet touched the muddy bottom and he dragged them both out, collapsing on the bank. The girl was shivering violently, her silver hair plastered to her cheeks. Her lips moved, whispering something in a language he didn't know. Her eyes, however, spoke clearly, fear mixed with relief. Ethan pulled his jacket off and wrapped it around her. "You're safe now," he said, even though she couldn't understand. She clung to his arm, still shaking. That's when he heard another sound, not from the river this time, but from the trees. A deep hum, mechanical. Shapes emerged from the mist, tall and armored, their eyes glowing red through their helmets. Alien warriors. They carried long weapons that glowed at the tips, aimed directly at him. Ethan's muscles tensed. One of them shouted something sharp and commanding. Pointing at the girl, she pressed herself closer to Ethan. Shaking her head, the warrior repeated the order, this time louder. Ethan didn't move. He didn't know what was happening, but he could feel her grip tighten. She didn't want to go with them. Then, in a soft, trembling voice, she spoke in broken English. "No. He's mine." Ethan's mind spun. She could speak his language at least a little. The warriors didn't seem to like her words, their weapons humming louder. Ethan's grip on the plasma cutter tightened. The air between them felt heavy. He didn't know who they were or what they wanted, but one thing was clear. If he handed her over, she would never be safe again. The leader of the warriors took a step forward, his weapon aimed right at Ethan's chest. The glowing tip brightened. A low whine filling the air. Ethan's eyes narrowed, his mind racing. If they fired, he had only a split second to react. The girl's small hand squeezed his arm. Her wide, glowing eyes met his, silently begging him not to let go. The sound of the river roared in his ears. The mist swirled around them, hiding shapes in the shadows. One wrong move, and this would be the last night for both of them. The alien warriors stood in a half circle, their armor shining faintly in the mist. The black river flowed behind Ethan, the current whispering like it was waiting to take them both. The girl, still wrapped in his jacket, clung to him as if letting go would mean death. Ethan kept his plasma cutter low but ready, its small blue light casting shadows on the wet ground. The leader stepped forward, tall and broad, his helmet shaped like the head of some alien predator. His voice came through a translator, deep and cold. "Human, you have something that belongs to us." Ethan's jaw tightened. "She almost drowned. I pulled her from the river," he said. "She belongs to us," the leader repeated, ignoring his words. "She will come with us now." The girl shook her head violently, her wet hair sticking to her face. "No," she whispered, in her broken English. "No go." Her small fingers dug into Ethan's arm. Ethan's instincts screamed at him. Whatever they wanted her for, it wasn't good. He had seen that look before, on planets where the weak were property. It was the same look in the eyes of people who had no say in their own fate. Another warrior, smaller but quicker, took a step forward, his weapon raising. The air buzzed with energy. Ethan slowly shifted his stance, putting himself more in front of the girl. "I don't know who you are," Ethan said, "but if she doesn't want to go, she's not going." The leader's helmet tilted slightly, as if studying him. "You think you can protect her?" he asked. Ethan didn't answer, but the way he stood said enough. The standoff stretched on. Mist swirled between them, the glow from their weapons casting sharp shadows across the muddy ground. Every breath Ethan took felt heavier. The girl's small heartbeat thumped against his side, quick and scared. The river gurgled behind them like a dark reminder that there was nowhere to run. The leader finally spoke again, his voice colder than before. "You will regret this choice." "Human." Ethan didn't move. The leader gave a hand signal. Two of the warriors began to fan out to flank him. Ethan's eyes darted to the thick forest behind him. If they surrounded him, there would be no escape. He had seconds to decide. The girl suddenly pulled at his sleeve, pointing toward the trees. Her eyes met his with urgency. He understood. There was a path she knew, but getting to it without getting shot was another matter. One of the warriors stepped closer, his armored boots sinking slightly in the mud. The hum of the weapon grew louder. Ethan's grip tightened on his plasma cutter. He knew it wouldn't match their firepower, but it could buy time. Then, without warning, the warrior nearest to him shifted his aim from Ethan to the girl. Her eyes widened. That was the breaking point. Ethan moved. With a sudden push, he grabbed the girl and dove sideways into the mist. Energy blasts cut through the air where they had been standing a second before. The heat from the shots grazed his back, sending a jolt of pain through him. The girl's small cry was lost in the roar of weapons. Ethan rolled to his feet, pulling her along. "Run!" he shouted, even though she was already moving. They plunged into the forest. Branches whipped at their faces, the ground uneven and slippery under their boots. Behind them, the warriors shouted in their own language. The hum of weapons followed, growing louder as they closed the distance. The girl led him along a narrow trail hidden by overgrown roots. Her steps were sure, even though the ground was treacherous. She had been here before. Ethan's lungs burned, but he didn't slow down. The forest was alive with strange noises, clicking, chirping, and the rustle of unseen creatures moving through the leaves. The glowing plants lit their way in faint blue and green, but they also made them easier to track. The girl suddenly ducked under a massive fallen tree, pulling him down with her. They crouched in the hollow space, the scent of damp earth and moss thick in the air, through the gaps in the roots. Ethan saw the red glow of the warriors' visors passing just meters away. He held his breath. The girl pressed a finger to her lips. Her glowing eyes locked on his. They waited, unmoving, as the sounds of armored footsteps and alien voices moved. passed, Ethan counted 10 heartbeats. Then 20. The forest went quiet again. He let out a slow breath. The girl touched his arm. "My name." "Lyra," she said softly, her voice trembling but steady enough to be understood. Ethan gave her a small nod. "I'm Ethan." She hesitated, then added, "They kill my people." "I last." Her words were broken but heavy with meaning. Ethan understood enough. She wasn't just running from them. She was the last of her kind. That made her not just in danger, but a target worth chasing to the ends of the galaxy. Before Ethan could respond, the ground beneath them gave a faint tremor. Lyra's eyes widened. A low growl rolled through the forest, deeper and more primal than anything they had heard that night. It came again, louder, closer. Ethan's hand went to his cutter, his body tense. Lyra's whisper was barely audible, but it made his skin crawl. "Big one. Coming." Somewhere in the darkness ahead, branches snapped under massive weight. The mist shifted, and 2 glowing eyes appeared in the black. The silent standoff with the warriors was over. Now something much worse had found them. The glowing eyes in the darkness didn't blink. They were too high off the ground to belong to any normal forest creature. A heavy breath rolled out of the shadows, hot and damp, carrying the smell of rotting meat. Ethan's instincts screamed. Whatever this was, it wasn't something they could fight. Lyra gripped his arm, her small fingers trembling. Her gaze stayed locked on the darkness. Ethan shifted slightly, positioning himself between her and those eyes. The creature moved, and the sound made the ground vibrate. Its steps were slow, deliberate, as if it was savoring the fear in the air. Then, without warning, it lunged forward. Moonlight caught on its form, a massive beast with black scales, 6 clawed legs, and a mouth filled with jagged teeth. Its body shimmered faintly, as if it could blend into the shadows at will. Ethan grabbed Lyra's hand. "Run!" he hissed. They bolted from under the fallen tree, crashing through the undergrowth. The forest erupted into chaos. Branches snapped, leaves rustled, and the ground shook as the creature thundered after them. Ethan's boots slipped on wet roots, but he didn't dare slow. Lyra was fast for her size, darting through narrow gaps between trees, pulling him toward paths only she seemed to know. The beast roared, the sound echoing through the mist and sending flocks of glowing bird-like creatures scattering into the night sky. A sudden blast lit the forest. Ethan ducked instinctively, pulling Lyra down with him. An energy bolt hissed past, scorching the bark of a nearby tree. He glanced back. The alien warriors had returned, and now they were firing at both him and the beast. The monster turned toward them with a furious roar. Distracted by their attack, Ethan seized the moment. "This way," he urged Lyra. They ran down a narrow slope, mud sliding under their feet. Lyra pointed ahead. "Safe path." "Trust me," she said between breaths. Ethan didn't question her. The path dipped into a small ravine, shielded by massive roots and vines. The noise of the battle above faded slightly, replaced by the steady trickle of water from somewhere. Deeper in the forest, Ethan slowed just enough to catch his breath. He could still feel the tremors in the ground. "That thing," he said, his voice low. "What is it?" Lyra's eyes were wide. "Hunter beast. They use for killing." Ethan understood instantly. The warriors had either unleashed it or driven it toward them. It wasn't just a random predator, it was a weapon. The ravine narrowed, forcing them to squeeze through a gap in the rocks. The air grew colder, damp, and the glow from the plants dimmed. For a moment, Ethan thought they had escaped. Then a low growl came from above. He looked up. The beast was climbing along the rock wall, its claws digging deep into the stone. It was coming down toward them. Ethan's mind raced. They couldn't outrun it in the tight space. "Lyra, is there another way?" he asked quickly. She pointed to a small opening on the left, barely big enough for her to fit. "You crawl." "I follow," she said. Ethan shook his head. "No, you first." She hesitated, then scrambled inside, disappearing into the dark tunnel. The beast lunged down into the ravine. Ethan fired his plasma cutter at the rock above it, sending shards and dust raining down. The creature hissed in pain and rage, momentarily blocked by the debris. Ethan turned and crawled into the tunnel after Lyra. The passage was tight and twisting. He could hear the beast's claws scraping behind him as it began to force its way in. The sound of its breathing was louder now, almost in his ear, Lyra's. Faint glow ahead guided him through the darkness. "Faster, Ethan," she urged. He pushed himself harder, his shoulders scraping the walls, his heart pounding. Finally, the tunnel opened into a wide cavern. A pool of clear water lay in the center, reflecting the dim blue light from crystals embedded in the ceiling. Lyra ran to the far side, pointing to an exit tunnel. But before they could reach it, the beast forced its head through the tunnel they had just crawled out of. Its roar shook the cavern, sending ripples through the water. Ethan scanned the cavern. There was no way they could outrun it to the exit before it broke free. Then he saw it, a narrow ledge along the wall that led higher up, toward another opening. "Up there!" he shouted, pulling Lyra toward it. They climbed, hands and feet scrambling against the rough stone. Below them, the beast smashed through the tunnel entrance. It leapt into the cavern, its claws slashing at the rock where they had been seconds before. Lyra almost slipped, but Ethan caught her, hauling her onto the ledge. They moved quickly toward the higher tunnel. The beast tried to climb after them, but the ledge was too narrow for its massive frame. It roared in frustration, the sound echoing like thunder. Ethan and Lyra slipped into the new tunnel, the darkness swallowing them. The roars faded behind them, replaced by the sound of their own heavy breathing. After what felt like forever, they emerged into the open forest again. The air here was fresher, the mist thinner. Ethan bent over, catching his breath. Lyra touched his arm, her eyes filled with something between fear and gratitude. "You saved me again," she said softly. Ethan gave a tired smile. "And I'm not done yet." But in the distance, through the thinning mist, he saw red glows moving. The warriors were still hunting them, and now they had the beast down there. Side, *, the forest ahead was darker now. The glowing plants were fewer here, replaced by thick vines and towering black trees. The air felt heavier, as if something in the shadows was holding its breath. Ethan kept Lyra close, his eyes scanning the mist for any sign of movement. Behind them, faint but clear, came the sound of the beast's distant roars, and somewhere farther back, the metallic hum of alien warriors moving through the jungle. "They not stop," Lyra whispered, her voice low and tense. "They never stop," Ethan nodded grimly. He had dealt with hostile alien soldiers before, but this was different. They weren't just chasing to capture, they were hunting to end her life, and the beast. That was their weapon, a perfect predator. The two moved silently, their steps soft on the damp ground. Every crack of a twig, every shift in the wind made Ethan's hand tighten around the plasma cutter. Somewhere in the shadows, a faint glow blinked, two small yellow lights. At first Ethan thought they were eyes, but they didn't move. Then they blinked again, in a slow rhythm. Lyra's breath caught. "Forest watchers," she whispered. "They warn other creatures." The blinking lights vanished, and a deep rumble rolled through the trees. Ethan's instincts kicked in. Something was moving closer. The air changed, filled with the smell of damp fur and blood. Then it stepped into view, the beast, but not in a full charge this time. It was stalking them, moving with a predator's patience, its 6 clawed legs silent on the forest floor. Its black scales reflected faint slivers of moonlight, making it blend with the shadows. Ethan pulled Lyra behind a thick tree trunk. The beast's head turned slowly, sniffing the air. Its eyes glowed faintly red now, like embers deep inside a furnace. Lyra's small hand clutched Ethan's wrist. "If I sing," she whispered, "it stop." "Maybe." Ethan looked at her. "Maybe?" She nodded, not sure. "It hungry." The beast stepped closer, its tail sweeping the ground with a low hiss. Ethan's mind raced. He had to give Lyra time to try. He stepped out from behind the tree, raising his plasma cutter but not firing. The beast paused, tilting its head. That's when Lyra began to sing. Her voice was soft at first, a strange, haunting melody that didn't sound human. It carried through the mist like a ripple. In still water, the beast froze, its head lowering. The glow in its eyes dimmed slightly. Its breathing slowing. For a moment, Ethan thought it was working. Then, a sudden crack echoed through the forest. An energy blast. The shot didn't hit them, but it burned into the tree beside Lyra. The beast's eyes flared bright red again, its head snapping toward the noise. The warriors had arrived, their weapons glowing as they closed in. The beast roared and charged, but not at Ethan or Lyra. It lunged at the warriors, smashing through the trees like a living storm. Screams and metallic impacts filled the night. Energy bolts lit up the forest in flashes, revealing brief glimpses of claws, teeth, and splintered armor. Ethan grabbed Lyra. Now's our chance. They ran in the opposite direction, the chaos behind them fading as they pushed deeper into the forest. The ground sloped upward now, and Ethan could feel the air getting thinner. They reached a ridge, the view opening to a dark valley below. Small lights flickered far in the distance, maybe a village or a camp. That way, Lyra said, pointing. Safe. Ethan was about to start down the slope when the ground beneath them trembled again. The beast's roar came from much closer than before. Somehow, it had shaken off the warriors, or worse, finished them. Ethan's heart pounded. If it caught them on this open slope, there would be no trees to hide behind. They scrambled down, stones and dirt sliding under their boots. Halfway down, the roar came again, louder. Ethan risked a glance back. The beast was on the ridge, its eyes locked on them. It leapt, landing halfway down the slope with a bone-shaking thud. Ethan pushed Lyra ahead. Go. She stumbled but kept running, her small legs moving faster than he thought possible. They reached the valley floor and darted into another patch of forest. This one was denser, the air filled with a thick green fog that clung to their clothes. It was harder to see, but that also meant the beast couldn't see them clearly either. They moved carefully, stepping only on soft moss to muffle their footsteps. Lyra touched Ethan's arm and pointed. Up ahead was a massive tree with a hollow at its base. They slipped inside. Crouching low in the darkness, the beast entered. The fog, its growls low and searching. It moved slowly, sniffing, its claws scraping against roots. Through a small gap in the tree, Ethan saw its head turn toward them. It stepped closer, the tip of its tail brushing past their hiding spot. Lyra held her breath, her eyes wide. The beast paused, sniffed again, then turned away, moving deeper into the fog. Ethan exhaled slowly. They stayed hidden until the sound of its steps faded. Lyra finally whispered, "We must go before it comes back." Ethan nodded. They slipped out from the hollow and began moving again. But as they stepped into a clearing, they froze. The fog thinned just enough for Ethan to see them. 4 alien warriors, standing silently, their weapons already raised, and behind them, moving through the mist like a shadow, the beast had returned. The clearing was silent for a heartbeat. Ethan stood frozen, Lyra behind him, her small hands clutching his jacket. 4 alien warriors blocked the path ahead, their armor gleaming faintly in the mist. Each weapon glowed with deadly energy, aimed directly at them. Behind the warriors, the fog shifted. The beast emerged, its red eyes fixed on them like burning coals. It was a trap. The warriors didn't move to attack right away. They wanted Ethan trapped between their guns and the predator. The leader stepped forward, his voice deep and cold through the translator. "This ends here, human." He pointed his weapon at Lyra. "Hand her over, and you will live." Ethan didn't move. Lyra's grip on him tightened. Her breathing was fast and shallow. She whispered, "They lie. They kill you too." Ethan already knew it. The look in the warrior's eyes told him there would be no mercy tonight. The leader raised his weapon higher. "Last chance," he said. Ethan took a step forward, putting himself fully between them and Lyra. His voice was steady, but every muscle in his body was tense. "You want her, you'll have to go through me." The leader's helmet tilted. "You think you can protect her from all of us?" Ethan's answer was simple. "As long as I'm breathing, no one will take her." Lyra looked up at him, her eyes wide. The beast growled low, stepping closer from behind the warriors. The leader gave a hand signal. The warriors began to spread out. The beast's claws scraped the ground. The tension was a wire pulled tight. One wrong move and it would snap. Ethan's mind raced. He had no chance in a straight fight, but maybe he could use the beast against them. When one of the warriors stepped too close to the predator's path, the beast snarled and snapped its head toward him. That gave Ethan an idea. He shifted slightly, angling himself so the warriors and the beast were in each other's line. Then he took a slow, deliberate step back toward Lyra and whispered, "When I say run, you run." The leader noticed the movement. "Don't try it," he warned. Ethan ignored him, eyes locked on the beast. The predator's gaze met his. Ethan didn't know if it understood anything, but he needed chaos. The leader finally lost patience. "Kill him," he ordered. In the same instant, Ethan shouted, "Run!" He shoved Lyra toward the trees and dove sideways. The first energy bolt hit where he had been standing, the heat burning past his shoulder. The beast roared, lunging forward, its massive jaws snapping down on the nearest warrior. Armor shattered, and the forest exploded into noise. Blaster fire lit the mist in blinding flashes. The predator slammed into the leader, sending him crashing to the ground. Ethan fought his way to Lyra, cutting through a warrior who blocked her path with his plasma cutter. The weapon hissed through alien metal and the warrior fell. "Go," Ethan urged, grabbing her hand. They sprinted toward the far edge of the clearing. The beast's roar shook the ground again, and another warrior's scream was cut short. They burst into the forest, the sounds of battle fading behind them, but they didn't stop. Ethan knew the survivors would follow. Roots and branches tore at their legs as they ran. Lyra stumbled once, but Ethan caught her before she hit the ground. Her voice was shaky. "Why? You not leave me?" Ethan didn't slow. "Because I promised." After what felt like hours, they finally stopped near a cluster of massive stone pillars. The air here was cooler, quieter. Lyra sank to the ground. Exhausted, Ethan crouched beside her, his chest rising and falling with each breath. "You don't understand," she said softly. "They kill my people because we sing to the beasts. They fear us." Ethan looked at her. "I don't care why they're after you, Lyra. All I care about is keeping you alive." She stared at him for a moment, her glowing eyes searching his face. "You mean it?" she asked. Ethan's voice was firm. "I mean it." Then, without hesitation, he said the words she would never forget. "As long as I'm alive, no one will take you, not them, not anyone. I swear it." Lyra's small hands gripped his, her voice barely above a whisper. "Then, I yours forever." The silence between them was broken by a distant sound. A low, steady hum. Ethan's head turned sharply. It wasn't the beast this time. It was the warrior's scout drones. Red scanning lights flickered between the trees. Growing closer, the chase wasn't over. Ethan stood and pulled Lyra to her feet. "We move now," he said. Her small voice answered, "With you. Always." And together, they disappeared into the darkness. The vow between them unbroken. The night air was colder now. The mist had grown thin, letting the alien moonlight shine down on the forest floor. Ethan moved quickly, keeping Lyra close. As the faint hum of the scout drones followed them, every few seconds, a red light swept across the trees, searching for their heat signatures. Lyra's small feet barely made a sound, but Ethan's boots left deep prints in the damp soil. He knew the warriors could track them if they got too close. Up ahead, the trees opened into a clearing filled with broken structures. Tall, rusted frames leaned at odd angles, covered in Vines and moss, it looked like an old outpost, abandoned for years. This place, safe? Lyra asked quietly. Ethan scanned the area. Safe enough for now. They slipped inside the largest structure, a crumbling building with a collapsed roof. Moonlight poured through the gaps, illuminating piles of metal crates and fallen beams. Ethan moved to one of the crates, pulling it open. Inside, he found old alien tools, scraps of metal, and broken power cells. None of it was useful for running, but some of it could be turned into makeshift traps. He began stacking sharp metal shards near the doorways. Lyra watched him with wide eyes. "You fight them here?" Ethan nodded. "If we keep running, they'll catch us. Here, I can control the fight." She didn't argue. Instead, she knelt and began humming softly. Ethan glanced at her. "What are you doing?" She whispered, "Calling friends." Small ones. Within minutes, faint shapes moved in the shadows outside. Small alien creatures with glowing eyes. They stayed near the edges, watching, their bodies tense. "They listened to me," Lyra said. "They warned me if danger close." Ethan finished setting up the traps and checked his plasma cutter. The power cell was half drained, not ideal, but enough for one fight if he was careful. A faint crack echoed outside, a twig snapping. He froze, looking toward the doorway. The creatures around the outpost hissed softly. "They come," Lyra whispered. Moments later, the first warrior stepped into the clearing, his visor glowing red in the dark. 3 more followed, spreading out around the building. Their movements were slow, deliberate. They knew this was a trap. Behind them, the beast emerged from the trees. Its massive frame moved with unnatural silence, its eyes fixed on the building. Ethan's heart pounded. This was it, the last stand. The leader's voice came through the translator. "You can't win. Give her up and you can walk away." Ethan stepped forward, his voice steady. "I already told you. She's not yours to take." The leader tilted his head. "Then you die with her." The warriors raised their weapons. Ethan moved first, triggering a makeshift trap near the left doorway. Metal shards swung down from a beam, slicing into one of the warriors' armor. The alien staggered, giving Ethan enough time to fire his plasma cutter. The shot burned through the warrior's chest plate, dropping him instantly. The others opened fire, bolts of energy blasting chunks out of the walls. Ethan ducked behind a crate, returning fire in short bursts. The beast roared and charged the building, smashing through the far wall. Dust and splinters filled the air as its massive claws swiped toward Ethan. He rolled out of the way, barely avoiding being crushed. Lyra's voice rang out in a haunting melody. The beast hesitated, its claws pausing mid-swing. For a few seconds, it swayed, caught between its rage and her song. Ethan seized the moment, firing at a warrior who had been aiming at her. The shot hit true, sending the alien crashing into a wall. The leader roared something in his own language, and the beast's eyes flared bright red again. It broke free from Lyra's influence and lunged. Ethan shoved Lyra toward the back of the building. "Go. Now," she hesitated. "Not without you." He shouted, "I'll be right behind you." The beast's claws slammed into the ground where Lyra had been standing a second before. Ethan fired at its face, the bolt striking near its eye. It roared in pain, rearing back. The leader charged, swinging a blade-like weapon. Ethan blocked with his cutter, sparks flying as the two weapons clashed. One of the smaller creatures Lyra had called leapt onto the leader's back, biting at his armor. The distraction gave Ethan an opening. He drove the plasma cutter into the leader's side. The alien let out a strangled cry and collapsed. The beast roared again, but this time, without its master's command, it looked uncertain. Lyra stepped forward, her voice rising in a strong, steady song. The beast's breathing slowed, its claws lowering. It backed away slowly, vanishing into the forest. The last surviving warrior fled into the trees. Ethan stood in the wreckage, his chest heaving. Lyra ran to him, throwing her arms around him. You kept your promise, she whispered. Ethan rested a hand on her head. Always. But even as they caught their breath, the distant hum of more drones filled the air. This fight was over, but the war for Lyra's safety had only begun. The outpost was silent now, except for the faint hiss of cooling metal from shattered weapons. Moonlight spilled through the holes in the roof, casting pale silver light over Ethan and Lyra. She was still holding onto him tightly, her small frame trembling. With the aftershocks of fear, Ethan could feel her heartbeat against his chest, fast but slowly calming. You hurt? He asked quietly. She shook her head. No. You? He gave a tired smile. I've been worse. Still, he felt the sting of burns across his shoulder and the ache in his ribs from where the beast's tail had grazed him. But he kept his voice calm. She didn't need more fear tonight. The forest around them was strangely peaceful now. The beast was gone, the warriors either dead or scattered. But Ethan knew it wouldn't stay that way forever. They'll send more, he said softly, almost to himself. Lyra's grip tightened. Then you not leave me. Ethan looked down at her glowing eyes. I told you. I'm not going anywhere. They moved through the wreckage, gathering anything useful. Ethan found a working energy cell and fitted it into his plasma cutter. Lyra collected small metal shards, slipping them into her jacket like treasures. Every few minutes, she glanced up at him, as if making sure he was still there by dawn. They had left the outpost and were walking along a ridge. The first rays of light touched the alien forest, turning the mist into rivers of gold. Lyra stopped and looked back at where they had come from. Long ago, she said quietly, my people live here. We sing to beasts. We keep forests safe. Her voice trembled. Then warriors come, kill all. I hide in river. Ethan listened without interrupting. When she finally looked at him, her eyes were wet. I only live because you pull me out. You my family now. The words hit him harder than any battle. He didn't say anything at first, just placed a hand on her small shoulder. Finally, he said, then I guess we're stuck with each other. She gave a small, shy smile. The first real smile he had seen from her. By midday, they reached the edge of the ridge and saw it. A small human camp nestled between two cliffs. The white tents glowed in the sunlight, and a tall antenna reached into the sky. Relief washed over Ethan. That's a safe zone, he said. Lyra tilted her head. Safe. For you, he frowned. Safe for both of us. She hesitated. Humans not want me. I different. Ethan crouched down so they were eye level. If they don't want you, then they don't want me either. And I'm not leaving you. They made their way down the slope. The camp guard spotted them and hurried over. Weapons raised at first. When they saw Ethan, they lowered them. But their eyes went to Lyra. One of the guards frowned. Sir, she's not human. Ethan's tone was sharp. She's with me. The guard hesitated, then nodded, letting them pass. Inside the camp, a medic rushed to check Ethan's injuries. Lyra stayed glued to his side, refusing to let anyone pull her away. When the medic tried to take her hand to check for wounds, she pulled back instantly. Ethan put an arm around her shoulders. She's fine, he said firmly. The medic gave him a curious look but didn't argue. After they had eaten and rested, Ethan found a quiet spot on a hill overlooking the camp. Lyra sat beside him, watching the sun set over the alien trees. The sky was painted in shades of orange and violet. She leaned against him, her voice soft. When I was in river, I think I die, she whispered. But then, you, he looked at her. I didn't just pull you out of the water, Lyra. I pulled you out of their hands. For a long moment, neither spoke. The air was calm, the only sound the distant hum of camp machinery. Then Lyra said, Ethan, you promised before to protect me. He nodded. I remember. She turned her head toward him, her glowing eyes serious. Then I promise too. I stay with you forever, he smiled. Forever's a long time, she smiled back. I not care. Forever yours. The stars began to appear one by one above them. Ethan glanced up. thinking about all the dangers still out there, the warriors, the beast, the unknown worlds they might have to cross. But with Lyra beside him, the thought didn't feel as heavy. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The camp lights flickered on, casting a warm glow over the tents. Lyra yawned and rested her head on his shoulder. Ethan wrapped his arm around her and let out a slow breath. For the first time in days, he felt like they might actually be safe, at least for tonight. And as the alien moon rose above them, Lyra's small voice drifted up, almost like a song. "My human. Forever mine." Ethan didn't answer, but he smiled in the dark, because he knew she was forever his too.